My name is Connie. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is January 9th, 2019. Welcome everyone to today's Threads of Recovery workshop. I've stated I'm an alcoholic. Do we have any other alcoholics present? Wave, smile, put on your welder hat. Acknowledging God's presence with a moment of silence. I will follow that with the set-aside prayer. Lord, help me set aside everything that I think I know about you, everything that I think I know about myself, everything that I know about my fellows, everything I think I know about my own recovery for a much needed new experience in you, myself, and my fellows, and a new experience in my own recovery. Help me see the truth. Amen. 1058 Threads of Recovery continues to offer virtual workshops 5 days a week. To be included in our weekly email, send your request to threads1058@gmail.com. This will keep you up to date on our workshops. Our group follows the 12 traditions. We stick to our singleness of purpose. We ask everyone to please refrain from the use of profanity when sharing. 7 tradition contribution details are in the chat. This is an open meeting. Open meetings are available to anyone interested in Alcoholics Anonymous program of recovery from alcoholism. Non-alcoholics may attend open meetings as observers. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce today's speakers, Babe and Thierry.
Hey, my name's Thierry. I'm an alcoholic. Good to be here. Babe, want to come on in?
Hi, kids. Glad to be here. Hope you are too.
My name's Terry. I'm an alcoholic. Yet again, this is a lot of fun. Look like our numbers went up, babe, from last week. Yeah, I guess we're doing something right. Yeah. You kind of notice that when you go through the process of step series or workshops or step studies, you lose some people, but looks like we've gained some people. So anyone who's coming in, welcome. We are going to be talking about step 6 and 7 today. It was kind of funny. I was helping one of my guys out with the instructions to step 5 at the end of the 5th step and 6 and 7. And all of a sudden, all these amazing things started coming out of my mouth. Because I was so worried about what am I going to talk about today. And then all of a sudden, I just start talking and it starts flowing. And God is just speaking through me. And I'm like, hold on, I need to write this down. This is good stuff to talk about. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, hold on, why should I write this down? Right? Just let God flow through me right now. You know, that's the beauty of step 6 is and preparing. I used to prepare a lot, let's just say, before I spoke in the beginning of recovery. Why? Because I wanted everybody to love me. I want everybody to clap for me. I wanted applause. I wanted standing ovations. It's what I wanted. And in the end, it was just making me go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs in my head. But when you just allow God to work through you, I love to say, instead of let God demonstrate through me what he could do, I'm forced to go to God during this situation when I start talking about 6 and 7 or any particular talk when I'm on the podium or I'm speaking at an event or a convention or a roundup. Right? I found it to be the most influential way instead of me preparing. So let's kind of step back with step 6. And I had a perfect release from alcohol, and I looked at my first time that I absolutely let go, and it was my control and my ability to manage alcohol. And that happened in my step 1 experience. I had a perfect release, right? But what about these other defects of characters, these weak spots in my inventory, the ones that have shown objectionable to me? I do want to go to page 75. So I hope you brought your books to class like we talked about. I just want to go over a little instructions for 5th step and then go over a little the mechanics of 6 and 7. And then I'll go into story time. So on the bottom of 75, it says, returning home, we find a place where we could be quiet for an hour. So carefully reviewing what we have done. So what we're doing is we're going into meditation. When we go home, you don't have to wait till step 11 to go into meditation. Now, what is meditation? I thought meditation was just being in a room going Zen and you got candles lit going, No, meditation back then is called, it's called focused thinking. So here's a little a nugget for you guys. If you guys know how to worry, you know how to meditate. So when you worry, you focus your thinking on the problem. When you meditate, you focus your thinking on the solution and on God's word. And that's what I'm doing right here in this process. Here's our 5th step prayer. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better. Taking this book down from the shelf, which turn to the page which contains the 12 steps, page 59. Carefully reviewing the first steps. So I'm focused thinking on these first steps. Have I omitted anything? Have I faced my fears? Did I leave anything out? Right? Because I'm walking through this archway of free man, and I am so happy. And so I'm just so happy that I was approached by someone who explained the arch to me. Right? Because they're going to talk about on 17, they talk it on page 12 of Bill's story, the foundation, the cement, and they're going to ask us these funky words on page 75, like, are the stones properly in place? What stone? My cornerstone, my keystone, my foundation stone. Have we skimped on the cement, which is on 17, put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar out of sand? And on top of page 76, if I could answer to my satisfaction after this 1-hour meditation, those questions prior, we then look at step 6, which is the nut and bolt of this whole process right here. Step 6, I would say, is probably one of my favorite steps as of today. Why is that? Because I'm trying to grow up. This step is asking me, am I willing to grow up? Am I willing to grow in the image and likeness of my creator? And I had a lot of growing up to do in Alcoholics Anonymous, just in general. I started drinking when I was 12. Let's say I got a lot of catching up to do. And it says, then we look, so we emphasize willingness as being indispensable, meaning I can't live without it. It's the air I breathe when I do this process, right? It's the air I breathe, right? I can't live without this willingness. So am I now ready to let God, I like that word let God remove from us all the things which I have admitted are objectionable. You notice the word now is in that sentence as well. Remember, now is a time frame. That means where's God? He's right here, right now. And I'm looking at this and looking after my process that I asked those questions. And am I willing to let go of the things which I omitted are objectionable? And how do I find out what's objectionable? My inventory process that I look through, right? And especially, I love that. I don't know about whoever hasn't done an extended third column. I love using an extended third column to find out more about my belief systems, more about my old thinking and my attitude towards things. And these are the things that are objectionable, right? We're going to find out in step 7, it's going to ask us, God have all of me. So there's the things that I know about are objectionable in my inventory, but there's things that I don't know about that I have to give to God, right? Because why is that? Because God's going to perform surgery on us, soul surgery on us. And I'm going to have to absolutely let go and let God do this process. So what are some things that I have objectionable? And I look at the third column of my inventory, and let's say that I was angry at my wife for always being right. And I looked at my self-esteem. Well, I am always right. Yeah, right? Or I looked at my ambitions. I want to be right. Or I look at my security. I need to be right in order to live. And that's a belief system, which is, in other words, called an aspect of character, which is a belief system that is rooted in my core, intertwined in my core, and I can't get rid of it without God's aid. And I'm walking around thinking and feeling, and to my core, saying to myself, I know what's right all the time. And that's objectionable. I step on a lot of people's toes and they retaliate because I think I know everything. What's another thing? I need money to live. That's another one that I pulled out from my inventory process. I had another, Mark Houston talks about, different stage characters we have, and mine was career man. And Career Man was constantly hurt, threatened, or interfered with all the time. So when everyone messed with my money, I would get upset, right? And I also looked at my first inventory process. I found out that all of it was dishonesty. That was my biggest number one defective character that popped out. It says developing and grasping a manner of living that demands rigorous honesty. Yeah, okay. I developed and polished a manner of living to perfection that demanded rigorous dishonesty. Guys, I lived a double life. I remember my first, I'm fresh out of rehab, and it was kind of funny. Like, we talk about Career Man trying to run the show. I just get back my phone on the last day in treatment, and I'm waiting for someone to pick me up and bring me over to sober living. And I apply to 1,000 jobs. I get a job interview on Tuesday, and I'm getting out on Sunday, guys. And I booked the job interview because based on my experience, my employability, I could get jobs at the gym business or whatever. I book a job interview with this guy at LA Fitness, and I go there on Tuesday, and he talks to me. It's a great conversation. And he asked me, so Terry, why did you move from New York to Minnesota? And I'm like, oh, living a life of rigorous honesty, living a life of rigorous honesty. Am I ready to let go of this? No, I'm not ready to let go. I say cost of living to him. And he's like, okay, well, let me tell you a little bit about myself, Terry. I've been working for LA Fitness for about 8 years. I'm a recovered drug addict, specifically a meth addict. I live in the community here, a strong found. I was like, hold on, time out. Hold on, you're in recovery? He's like, yeah, I've been in recovery for this amount of time. I'm like, hold on, me too. How did you know that I was in recovery? He's like, not many people move from New York to Minnesota. Imagine if I was honest in the beginning. Am I really, really willing to let go of what's objectionable in my life? Maybe. So I look at these objectionable things that are blocking me from the power. And this is, yet again, am I willing to grow up and willing to grow in the image and likeness of my creator? I think another time where I had with money. And let's talk about money, because I need money to live is an aspect of character that was rooted in my soul. And there was a lot of pain that's associated with letting go of a defect, or just letting go of a belief system or an old idea. And I remember I had money was one of the top priorities. And I remember I went into two-way prayer and I asked God, please help me with this specific thing. And I wrote this down, and this did not come from me. It says money's just paper. That didn't come from me. That didn't come from this mind up here. And I also wrote, you could rip it. That did not come from me at all. You're gonna think about how much money is in your bank account, Terry, when you're gonna die? When you got 2 days to live, how much money is in your bank account, or the degrees or diplomas on your wall? No. After that, I had a real surrender when it came to money. I absolutely let go of this need I need money to live. And I let God, I gave it to him in 7, and he took it. Ever since then, God worked. I can't explain. I'm just mystified. I'm mystified with 6 and 7, because every time I'm in immense pain, I absolutely let go, and I ask God to take it. He takes it. I think this was the turning point in my recovery. I mean, I came to believe in the beginning. I knew there was some type of thing out there, possibly. I saw little fingerprints of his divine power. I saw him recreate people in his lives, but I didn't really believe in it 100% or wholeheartedly. And when I saw that, I asked him, or I felt, I seen, I believed, like it says on page 28 of the book, I felt, I saw, I believed. I literally felt it be removed from me. It was gone. I am 1000% convinced that God is real after that. And I haven't looked back after that. Like, you can't, like it says, no later vicissitude is shaking it. No later vicissitude is shaking my faith. And it was because of that process of me going through 6 and 7. Let me go back to the reading. Can God now take them all? There's that word now again. Can he now take them all? Every one. And yet again, and if I'm not willing to let go, it says if we still cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to help us be willing. And I personally like to, in the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, my sponsor just read this to me. And I'm on step 8 and 9, right? And look, going through the process multiple times. Now, today, I have guys sit with their unwillingness. You know, they don't have to give you an answer. Are you now ready to take this all and every one of them? Sit with this willingness. There's some things that if you're not willing to let go, sit with it, right? Oh, my boy. Sorry. Sit with the unwillingness. And I come up with a prayer through this process where I ask God to show me what it looks like to live a life in this defective character. I create a prayer to ask God to show me what it looks like to live with this belief system and how it's hurting me. And God will show you, like he will show you, right? I looked at my old ideas and my old belief systems about church people, right? I had an immense prejudice towards them. And it was called stems from old ideas and a lot of pride and a lot of unwillingness to accept many things in faith that I couldn't accept on. And I remember my wife asked me to go to church one day, and you know, she's a born again Christian, and you know, it says to be quick to see where religious people are right, make use of what they have to offer. And I was telling people to do exactly what it says and how it works, do exactly what it says in action, and you'll stay sober for the rest of your life. But who was not being quick to see where religious people are right? Me. Uh-oh. Guess who had to go do it himself? And I had a lot of pain while I was on that drive over to the church. And it's just felt a brainstorm, right? That word fit of rage, right? Was just coming through my mind. Anger. I had a real surrender in that moment, and I absolutely let go of anger. And the first thing that popped into my head was the lay aside prayer. And I haven't said the lay aside prayer maybe 5 months, 4 or 5 months. And I said, please lay aside everything I think I know about church so I may have an open mind and new experience with church. Amen. And I get to the church, and all of a sudden the pastor comes up and he starts talking about fear. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I like fear. This is a good topic here. And he's like, it's not a matter if fear crops up, it's when fear crops up. That's exactly what the pastor said. I'm like, oh, snap, he just stepped 10 me. And all of a sudden, they start talking about all these things that we do. I mean, they're doing the same thing that we do. I had no idea, but I was so blind because of my anger. I was so blind because of my old ideas, my belief systems. There's another unwillingness as well. Yeah, show me what it looks like to live a life with this defective character. Gossip is another one. You know, I wasn't willing to let go of gossip or sloth. It was funny. I was listening to a speaker, and it was the exact situation that I had. So I'm spiritual now. I'm Mr. Spiritual Man, and I hear people at an AA meeting, they're gossiping, right, Debbie? They're gossiping. I walk up, I'm like, I don't want to be part of that. That's gossip central. I'm not part of that filth. And then I go over and I see Babe in the corner, and I go over to Babe because I know Babe is a spiritual man. He's not a gossiper like these guys. I go up to Babe. I'm like, hey, Babe, you see what these gossipers are doing right now? They're talking crap and stuff like that. So I'm gossiping about the gossipers. Oh my God. And this is the ego takes on different faces in recovery. Defects kind of morph, or our attitudes, the belief system change. And Mr. AA or Mr. Spiritual Man or Mr. AA speaker is another one. And these people they come out and they're kind, considerate, generous, self-sacrificing, modest. Sounds like on page 61, right? I try to get my way, right? And Yeah, I could go I could go on a tangent with this, but think about sponsor. Mr. AA sponsor is another one that I found out recently, where I was trying to get my sponsees to do what I tell them to do. Why aren't you doing what I tell you to do? Do you want what I have? Are you gonna do what I have to do? You got to go do what I do, right? And I make them do what I have to do, and I piss people off. I step on their toes. I did an inventory on this process, and I saw where I was playing God and the people that I'm working with. These people are saving my life by helping me not think about me. And I'm so concerned about them and what they're doing that I start to play, God's role and play the little strings like little puppets they are, make them do things that I want them to do. And all of a sudden I'm hurting them. That was pain came in with that one. Because I started seeing that people were not doing what I asked them to do. And who got upset? Who got disturbed all the time? Why was that? Because I was disturbable. I had a belief system that I wanted people to do what I want them to do because I'm Mr. AA sponsor. Look at my recovery. Look what I'm doing. Who am I to say what your journey is, right? Who am I to say to tell someone, another person, what to do? I mean, how arrogant that was. And I learned and I gave that to God when I had immense pain that came with it. I guess the final straw was I was trying to get my sponsee to learn the traditions. I was like, oh, Mr. Upholder the Traditions is another stage character that came across. I would share at people, right, who were violating the traditions in meetings, right? I'm like, oh, okay, well, singleness of purpose. You ever heard that? Yet again, what am I? I'm all about the traditions, but I'm breaking the traditions at the same time in meetings, right? Yet again, pain. Pain is the touchstone for growth. And when I saw these stage characters, these minions in my head, this narrative that feeds me BS, I actually saw them when I wrote it down. And this is very recent. And I gave them to God in 6 and 7. And it says, when I was ready, when ready. So sit with your unwillingness. When you are ready, you are ready, right? I'm not the one who's the alpha, the omega in the beginning. Oh, I tell you what to do. Sit with it. God is your director, not Terry, even though I like playing God. But I learned from that. It didn't work. And it says, when ready, we say something like this. My creator, I kind of like how Bill threw that in there. Well, your creator could be a doorknob if you were created by a doorknob, right? Just kidding. Just kidding. My creator, so whatever your creators were going to be, right? I am now willing. I like that say, now willing. And I did not used to be willing, but now I'm now willing because I sat with that unwillingness for a little while, that you should have all of me, good and bad. And why the good? Because he could do better. I mean, think about I had open heart surgery and I'm going into spiritual surgery right now, literally. I let go of everything. Now I'm gonna have to put the mask put on. They hit me with the needle to knock me out. I am willing to have all of them. Do what you need to do. Change the valves. Take this. I had no idea they were gonna take my artery out of my wrist. I don't have a pulse in this left arm, by the way. Why shouldn't I laugh? I recovered, everyone. Right, babe? And give power to help others. I actually got to get a watch and put it on this side. Actually, I got to put a little note in my wallet that says I don't have a pulse on my left arm. But I had no idea they were going to do that. I had no idea they were going to take an artery from here. God is going to do the same thing. He's going to work on us an internal change inside and out. And we are not the judge. That's why it says good and bad. That takes the judgment out of it. Takes my judgment out of it. Do what you need to do, God. Right? I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character that stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. So God is going to remove the defects of character that is what blocking me from being helpful to you and my fellows, to God and my fellows. So he's going to remove that stuff. So when I'm useful, It talks about useful all throughout the book. It's sprinkled all throughout there. And think about the 9 step promises. If I'm useful, the feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. Well, why those two in the same sentence? Because if I'm being useful, I'm not in self-pity. If I'm being useful, I'm not in fear. Think about it. This is what's happening. If I'm being useful, I'm not thinking about Mr. AA sponsor, right? I'm not or useful. I'm not thinking about AA speaker. If I'm useful, I'm not thinking I need money to live. If I'm being useful, I'm not being selfish. If I'm being useful, I'm not being in a self-seeking behavior. If I'm not useful, blah blah blah. We could keep going on and on and on. That's what we're doing it. And it says, God grant me strength. So I'm coming out of my surgery now. Let's rock and roll. Grant me strength to do thy bidding. Right? As I go out here to do your bidding. What bidding? To go make amends. Go perform his work well. To fit myself to be a maximum service to God and the people around us. What we do is step 7, we put legs on them and we go make our amends. So I think I'm done talking, babe. Babe, come on in, babe.
Well, thanks, Terry. And hello, kids. I'm Babe. I'm an alcoholic. And yeah, I don't give any thought. Terry, you got more ideas popped into my pointy little head. Terry's approach was practical. What do we do? What do we do with this thing? And I'm all about the feelings. And this whole, what is this step 6 thing? Last night we were reading We Agnostics, the people that won't do this, besides contempt prior to investigation. I'm happy living in ignorance because I'm right and you're wrong. Well, how's that working for you? You're sitting at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous wishing you were dead. How's that working out for you? And what does it say? That what blocks us is unreasoning prejudice. That's contempt prior to investigation. Obstinacy. I'm persistent. I'm stubborn. And that holds me in darkness. My obstinacy. And Bill, I like it. I'm going to blur 6 and 7 completely, I'm sure. But what does it say? That this I'll never give up. What's that but obstinacy? Or I can't, woe is me. That's unreasoning prejudice. I believe that to my core, and I'm screwed. And what is insensitiveness. That's the other thing that blocks us. I can't tell my sponsor this on the 5th step. I'm just a sensitive guy. And miserable at that. Yesterday, a guy asked me a really cool question. Babe, what is now? And I actually gave it a little thought. Now is the one thing that can only be experienced. The minute I start thinking about it, it's then. It's no longer now. And like Terry said, am I worrying about the future? That's not now. And so we can never nail down now. And that, the spiritual experience. We've entered the world of the spirit. We found much of heaven. That's right now. And that's the only time we actually get to experience. The future and the past are never experienced. They're only considered. And so to learn and taking into consideration our thoughts of the future and our thoughts of the past, like a nanosecond ago, sets us up to how I approach life. And what is a spiritual experience? An entire psychic change, a new attitude and approach to life. Am I willing to try this new thing? And then when we get to step 3, we make this deal with God or the devil or whomever you want to call him. And our whole life right now, every now is supposed to be draw close to God and perform his work. Well, I can't do that. That's why I take step 4. Why can't I do that? Because I'm full of resentment. I'm full of self-centeredness, my pride, my ego, those instincts that Bill talks about. What's my ambition? All I want is security, emotional and physical, money, prestige, and romance. That'll get it for you, babe. Till it doesn't. Because that's a different now. If I'm looking at my bank account, that's what I did yesterday. if I'm looking at my arthritis and worrying, am I ever going to be able to walk? I'm worrying about that. I cannot live in the now when I'm caught in the wreckage of the past. That's why we take that. And what does it say in the fourth step with our fears? And I like Bill in the 12 and 12 says, self-centered fear is the chief activator of all my defects. What am I not going to get, or what am I going to lose? And that's never now. That's always in the future or the past. So if I get stuck in the future, in the past, I'm done for. And what does it say after, so we're in the world to play the role God assigns, draw close to God and perform his work well. And then ask him what he would have me be. That's looking to the future, which gets us to step 6 eventually. Looking to what I can become. Build with me, do with me. That third step prayer. Make something of me. Get me out of my head. Show me what to do. So I am not, I'll get to 6. I love the hour that we take. And I give you a whole week. I don't tell you to do it for an hour, but the most important line, returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. So what does my life look like now? It's not just what I have done in my 5th step. What does my life look like now? What does step 1 look like when I got here? What does step 1 look like? What happened in step 1? What's step 1 like? Every one of those steps. But this is the part to think about. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better. That's what I like to focus on. How close have I gotten to God so far? And then it gets into the construction details, how to build an arch. Am I making cement without mortar? I like the welder. What a great name for God. God's the great welder. He turns up the heat enough that we melt and we bond together. What a cool concept of God. We don't like the heat, but we sure like the bonding. That's step 6. And, and I'm not, you've probably all seen it, that list of like 90 character defects. Like, oh my God, they're the Eeyores. I'm just working on my character defects. I have to be aware of them. But right now, how is it showing up? Terry talked about these character defects show up in a lot of different phases. That's what the 4th step, manifestation of self. They're all self-centered. Pride, self-esteem are the killers. Pride leads the procession, it says. So I don't have a whole list of these character defects. What I have is a sense of feeling right now. Am I feeling icky? And then I get to look at it because now it's past. Why do I have this? Why do I feel this way? And it's always self-centered. And that's the difference between recovery and sobriety. Just put the plug in the jug and go to meetings. How useful are you for that? You're still in it for you. You're still being selfish. The thing says we stood at the turning point. I honestly believe the biggest turning point in recovery is step 6 and 7. Bill says we get to do this the rest of our life. I get to look for my pride, my anger, my lust, my envy, my greed, my gluttony, and my sloth one of these days. And how can I do it better? We're supposed to be aiming toward the perfection which is of God. What order? I can't go through with it. How's that for a turning point? You can always do better. And there's it's a Zen cone. There's a bluebird and a woodpecker sitting in this cherry tree, blossomed out, gorgeous spring day. And the little bluebird, that I act like the bluebird most of the time, but the bluebird saying, this is so beautiful. It's a beautiful day. Look at the blossoms. I love my life. I love my life. The woodpecker said, gee, the only thing I look for are the dead branches. They're the Eeyores. They're the woodpeckers. The woodpecker lives on the dead branches. That's where his food comes from, but misses the blossoms. And on the other hand, the bluebird can miss the sorrow, the pain in somebody else. And so I can be a little sunbeam, but if I'm not reaching out to help somebody else, our buzzword, frequent contact with newcomers and each other is the bright spot of our life. So I can be a bluebird. If I can make somebody smile, if I can cry with them, if I can show compassion, that's what we ask God to do. Am I wrapped up in money, property, prestige, and romance? I don't know that that's the absolute purity in the four absolutes. That absolute purity, I can conceive of it, but that's what I ain't ever going to get to. But am I willing to try? Am I willing to show compassion? Am I willing to show respect? Or am I just going to think about throwing you down in bed? And I guess I'm 73 and the lust never seems to go away. But it doesn't dominate our life. And that's what Bill talks about, our instincts gone awry. We let these instincts, the instinct for pride, anger, envy, greed, gluttony, sloth. I want more, I want more, I want more. And what's in it for me? And what do we learn in this? What's in it for you, God? What's in it for my fellows? That's what we aim for. So I don't run around with a list of character defects. I have to know what they are, that they not even necessarily what they are, but that they are. There's something selfish in me. My sponsor, I'd say something stupid, and my sponsor, all she'd say is, babe, that's pretty alcoholic. Because being an alcoholic means I'm self-centered in the extreme. So get out of myself, reach out and touch someone. Aim toward the perfection which is of God. And in the 12 and 12, he talks about the obstinacy. This I will never give up. What's that but being obstinate? Or this I can't. If I'm counting on the applause, the recognition, my self-esteem is going to be shattered. And I can't possibly go on unless I get your approval. Pretty selfish, isn't it? I'm going to put on a mask just to say, oh, I like you, babe. And deep in my heart, I'm saying, I don't deserve that. That's how we isolate. When we put the mask back on that we've just got done ripping off in step 5, and we can continue to put on brand spanking new masks. And so this whole idea of I love the 7-step prayer. Now I'm ready. Am I willing to do this? Am I willing to do better? That, I believe, is the purpose of that, the 11th step, not the 10-step nightly inventory, the 11th step. How did I do today, God? And what's that but looking at the past? It ain't looking at right now, but I get to review my day. What could I have done better? Was I suffering a little pride? That's the big one for most of us, because from that comes the self-esteem and the ambitions and everything else. But what could I have done better? Where was I wrong? And it's actually, I think it's in step 7. I could have got out the books and looked like I know what I was talking about. It's conveniently written in the 12 and 12. And what does it say in the big book? If we can answer these questions to our satisfaction. Now it's not what my sponsor thinks of me. This is a meditation. How much closer to God am I right now? Right, as soon as I finish. And yeah, I like the delighted, because it says we do this stuff to see what's blocking us from the sunlight of the Spirit. So even though I don't feel glee, I am delighted if I've been thorough, if I have ripped off all the masks. And that's the new freedom that we get, that we sense the nearness of our Creator. We're skipping hand in hand with the Spirit of the universe. After anybody's 5th step, I never heard one person say that. But which is why I give them a whole week to think about it, not just the hour. Think about what you learned about yourself in step 5. How is that going to apply to the rest of your life? Which is what step 6 is. I can always do better. And it says we don't beat ourselves up over it. We thank, hello, Phoenix, my buddy. I'm going to turn this over to him because he lives right here and right now. And look at him, pew, 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 he's learning. And this is his favorite step. But this whole idea of living life as it comes, the tears, the joy, the laughter, that's why our greatest love and And it comes from our heartbreak, why our greatest gratitude comes from our sorrow. That we know God better, that we get a now that is beyond our wildest dreams, this way of life that we can't even imagine. That's why I believe the 6 and 7 are the turning point. You know, we managed to get sober. We managed to get a contact with God. We managed to tear down some of the walls. Now what? 6 and 7 are the now what steps. Now what, God? Oh my gosh. Now I could do a Karen Carpenter. We've only just begun. Because this is the beginning of this new way of life. Ain't it enough I did that tedious 4-step, and isn't it enough that I ripped off the mask and I told you all my dark secrets? Now you're telling me, nice start, babe. Let's get going. That's 6 and 7. So my creator, I'm ready that you have all of me, the good and the bad. I that's what I stress to myself all the time. If I'm thinking this, you already heard, I no longer get to have bad days. I only get to have selfish days. So I'm ready that you have all of me, the good and the bad. That's my pride. I'm judging that. Well, like Terry says, hey, Terry, did you hear what those gossipers said? You know, we're still human. We're still flawed. And thank God for that. That's why this is so friggin' entertaining. Because if I'm living in love with all God's kids, my little third step, my every morning, here I am, God. I don't know anything. I'm coming to you with empty hands. Then surprise me, God. Show me the miracle. Show me the mystery. And boom, it's mystery after mystery, surprise after surprise, miracle after miracle all day long. And some of the surprises aren't real joyful. Some of the surprises are very, very painful. And through them, I say, how can I know you better, God? God becomes the driving force in our life. That's what this says. Huh? I just want to quit drinking, for crying out loud. I want to get back in the big bed. Well, let's look at lust. Even if you get in the big bed, you might not get the border crossing for a while. But, you know, we get to live life with our feet firmly planted on the ground. It's in the book. Our head is in the clouds with our creator, but our feet are firmly planted on the ground because that's where our fellows are. And in humility, which is step 7, I realize that I am just one of the kids on the playground. And I'm just another bozo on the bus. Oh, yeah, there ought to be clowns. Send in the clowns. Don't bother. They're already here. I love being one of God's clowns. They call St. Francis God's fool. You know, look at that guy. He threw all his father's merchandise out the tower window for free and for fun. Ran around the streets naked. The guy's a friggin' idiot. And we make him a saint. But what a way to live, you know, like the lilies of the field or the birds in the meadow. That's living right here, right now. That's what all this stuff in AA means, that God is going to provide what I need, not necessarily what I think I want. And the joyful part of this whole journey is that I am a human. I am flawed. Just think if all of a sudden I got all this stuff, then what? You ain't going to make me a saint right away. And what a joy it is to share our flaws, our character defects, to be willing to have them removed, to look for something better, to see the beauty in the world around me despite my dark moment. That's what this is. So yeah, to live this. What is this awareness? Stevie liked my little thought yesterday. And that one struck me, that in my emptiness is where I find fulfillment. That in my now is the only time that I experience. I get to live life right here, right now. What's happened to lilies of the field? The birdies in the neither reap nor sow. I'm not saying quit your job. And we do have to live in this world, and that's what makes it so exciting. What makes it so much fun. You know, if you want to be an Eeyore, God bless you. We need the Eeyores too. My life is so terrible. And what does it say we do? We get to walk hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with these people. Show them. Lay this kid a simple spiritual tools at their feet. It's up to them to pick them up. But my job is to hold out my hand and tell you, I don't know what you're going to get, but I can show you what I've gotten by trusting God, cleaning house, and loving all the kids on the playground, not just the ones that agree with me. Practice loving the person that drives you freaking nuts. You know, when your phone rings and it's, oh my God, it's him again. Progress, not perfection, babe. Answer, hi, how are ya? It's not being dishonest. It's me turning my eyes toward the perfection, which is of God. And isn't it amazing that when we get talking to somebody like that, both of our spirits are lifted? You know, I might be feeling, hell, I had to go to the grocery store today and my arthritis is really bad. And I'm thinking, I got to walk to the car and then I got to walk around and I'm going to be in agony this whole time. And And I got to go to Aldi's and I got to watch the kid throw my stuff in the bag. And I got to watch some lady pick up blueberries that had fallen out of her cart. And you know, we were laughing. It's not even berry picking and she's picking up berries. Some people, you know, the ERs would be, oh my God, now I'm going to be stuck in a stupid line for 25 minutes. Well, so what? You got the rest of your life. I would have had to knock down an old lady, but I wanted to help the young lady picking up all the blueberries all over the floor. And I told her she gets the Humanitarian of the Day award today for picking up those berries. You did a nice thing. Compliment somebody. Show somebody a blossom. Don't show them a dead branch. Worse, don't beat them with a dead branch. You miserable troll. You get a life. We don't get to tell people that. We get to say, this is the life I've got. And then every once in a while, somebody says, I want this too. Show me, babe. Help me, help me, help me. And then we get to take their cold little hand and say, come with me, kid. You're in for the ride of your life. And that is so. Step 6 and 7 are kind of important. Remove from me every single defective character that stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Bill says we got those instincts. They ain't ever going to all be there. So what I emphasize that is the actual words that I say, emphasizing the every single. But what is the flaw in my nature? It's my pride, my ego, my judgmentalism. And then somewhere in step 7, I think too, it says that we talk to somebody about it, which is what steps 10 is. You know, every second of the day, I'm supposed to be looking for I throw the 7 deadly sins in there with the few that they mention in step 10. Continue to look for this stuff. Be aware of it when they crop up. What do? We talk to God. Then we make amends if we stepped on somebody's toes. And then we talk to somebody. And that's the one that's a character defect. I throw it into step 7. Okay, God, please remove this from me. And I forget to talk to somebody about it. So I let a couple of them stack up. And then I'll call somebody and say, I got a few things that I got to talk about. Usually they're calling me and they got a few to talk about. So that opens the door to me too. And what does Bill say? Willingness is the key that opens that door just a little crack. Am I willing to have God remove all these character defects? The minute I'm willing, that door opens. And the hell of it is God's standing there with a whole army, a whole playground full of his kids. They come kicking in the door. They come rushing in and oh my God, there's a million of them. What a blessing. So that's enough out of me.
All right. Thank you both so much. Brilliant. Brilliant. Would one of you take us out with a prayer or reading of your choice?
Sure. When ready, we say something like this. My Creator, I am now willing that you have all of me, the good and the bad. Please remove from me every single defective character that stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, babe, so much. Give Debbie a second to unmute and everyone can thank the speakers.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, babe.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome.
Guys.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks, babe.
Thanks, guys. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.